Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Chess Blitz postmortem video. It was a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 63, where I kicked off with e4 and my opponent played Caro-Kann. So let's take a look at this. This e5 is known as the advanced variation. If you look at it, the other options here are knight c3 and knight d2, kind of the same idea. If black takes, then white takes back with the knight. And or the e takes d5, the exchange variation, which often is followed up with c4, or the Panov-Botvinnik attack. But I play the advanced variation, which has been gaining in popularity in recent years, and this is called the short variation, after Nigel Short, the way I'm playing it here, with knight f3 and then usually bishop e7 and castles. But I've been changing it up a little bit. At this point, sometimes I will try to bring out the knight from d2 to b3. And the idea is to add some reinforcement to the c5 square, maybe make it a little more difficult for that c6 to c5 push to take place. Now my opponent plays kind of a slow plan here with h6. Usually e6 is the move played here. So we're out of book. So this move h6 encouraged me to go ahead with the knight d2 plan right away, rather than usually I would play bishop e7 first. And it seems okay here. I looked at this with the computer and it rated it as the usual opening advantage for white, so I haven't gone terribly wrong just yet. That happens later. And I'm going to leave the computer turned off, the chess engine off, so that we can do some tactical quizzes along the way. So just normal development here. Okay, so here the computer thinks I could have played better. So the way to maintain my advantage is to actually take that pawn. And the point is, if he takes with a knight, then that gives me this nice square here on d4 for my knight. And also that doesn't do anything for his development, so I would have slightly improved development. He'll be moving a piece twice. And my knight on d4 will hit his bishop on f5, so that will cause him to waste another move. So that's a way to maintain the advantage. And also if I take and he takes with a bishop, then I trade, he takes back, and in this line his development is okay, but I've won the bishop pair, so I still have a slight advantage. The way I play c3, computer thinks this is all about equal for black is just about equalized here. So but he continues with c takes d4, which the computer thinks I have an interesting opportunity here. And this is a move I didn't think about at all during the game, so I think I'll play through this sequence just so you can see it. I won't do this one as a tactical quiz. I think it's a little, I don't know. It's not exactly a tactic, but watch what happens. It's knight takes the pawn, and it looks like you're just sacking a pawn, right? That knight can take. But then you throw in this check. And how is black going to deal with that check? He doesn't really want to move the king and forfeit his castling privileges, and he can't block with the queen or a pawn, so he has to just bring the knight back here. Then you can grab the bishop, and then you can grab the pawn. So you get your pawn back, and if you look at all your pieces are developed. Black still hasn't castled, whereas you can castle the next move. And even though the pawns are even, the material is even, his pawns over here, he's got 4 pawns that are blocked by your 3 pawns because they're doubled, and you effectively have an extra pawn on the queen side. So this is a line that gives quite a strong advantage to white. So it's not really a pawn sack at all, because you're getting that pawn back almost immediately. But you have to spot it in this position. So knight takes, bishop check, knight back, knight takes bishop, pawn takes, and queen takes pawn. So I guess you can visualize that, but it's a tactic to look for in similar kinds of positions, particularly any time that black has put his bishop here in f4. That's something to keep in mind, kind of tactic. Okay, so I missed that, and let's continue with the game. I just took back, and I thought I was doing okay with a strong center here, but the computer rates this as about even, and somewhere around here black even gets a slight advantage. Maybe this f4 plan was not the greatest idea. He gets active. All his pieces are developed. The only thing is maybe his bishop would be better placed somewhere else. But everything's pretty good up to this point. And I guess it's right here, h4. So, I mean, everything was about even. After h4, the computer thinks that black could get pretty strong advantage. Nothing tactical, just developing the bishop to here, or the other knight, not that knight, this knight to c6. And it's just those sort of normal developing moves, and thinks black has a pretty good advantage here. But he played instead f6, and now it's more or less even again. And the computer prefers taking with the h-pawn here. I'm not sure why. Right here in this situation, thinks black is better off taking with the h-pawn, or even, this makes some sense, taking the e-pawn, ignoring the stuff on the g file, and just taking the e-pawn, which is what he originally played f6 to do. But he took this way, and I took back, and the computer again thinks I should take with the h-pawn. And then he pushes ahead with h5. So maybe, I guess if I had taken with the h-pawn, then maybe this h-pawn on h5 would become loose. And I notice here that my knight is all blocked in by my own pawns. It's kind of awkward in this situation. So I'm hoping to push the pawn to g6. But if I do it right away, his bishop can just take it. So I try to set it up with rook g1. But then he gets this move, bishop g6, and to kind of shut down this plan. So I try and trade off his bishop and back up. Yeah, I did that move kind of casually, and that move is actually a mistake. So after I did that, I noticed, oh, whoops, I'm hanging a knight here. Then I said, oh, if he takes, I can take his. If he takes my knight, I take his bishop. So we're even. If he takes my bishop, I take back with the queen and defend the knight. So we're even that way too. But right here, there's a very strong tactic for black. So why don't you guys take a look at it? It's black's turn to move, and what's the best move here? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. If you haven't figured it out, pause the video. This is 2 or 3 moves deep, so it's worthwhile pausing and looking at it for a bit. It's not right on the surface, but it's a good thing to look for, because it's the kind of thing you should be on the lookout for in your own game. These kind of tactics pop up. And if you're there to take advantage of them, that'll definitely increase your playing strength. The tactic is knight takes e5. And actually you can take with either knight. It doesn't matter. And suppose I just take back with the pawn right away. Then what he has is rook takes knight. And now, like I said, he took the knight, which is unprotected, so I have to take his bishop just to keep material even. And now, I hope you see the tactic. It's rook f2 check, and forking my king and queen. And his queen is supporting the rook there. So that's pretty devastating. So if we back up, if he takes with a knight, if I take with my knight, trying to delay, he just keeps taking. And then he's got that again. He could have even played that move sooner. As soon as I move my knight out of the way, actually. It's not only the knight, the pawn has to be out of the way too, and then he's got that tactic. Yep. So that's happening in either case. So if we back up to this position, how can you spot these tactics? Well, first of all, you notice the king and the queen are on the same row. And then second of all, you'll notice that the queen and the rook are coordinating on that square. So you just have to get rid of these obstacles. The obstacles are that pawn and that knight. And you have a neat sacrifice to do that. Just taking on e5 clears up this diagonal. And if I don't take back with the knight, the rook can take the knight, because it's just hanging. And then you're threatening this, and also you're a piece up. And if I try to grab the piece back, then you have that check. So that's the tactic. Good one to file away. So my opponent missed that. But actually, he has quite a good position along here anyway. I win a pawn, but he's got control of the f file here, and he can generate threats. It's just this move queen c7 was a mistake. I think even now it's possible to play knight takes e5 here. But after queen c7, I can grab another pawn, and oh, there was one other idea here in this position. instead of queen c7. There's also rook f3 to f4, hitting this pawn and this pawn. And if I defend this pawn with my king, say, then he's got 3 pieces concentrating on this pawn on d4, and I only have 2 defenders, so he can just win that pawn. So he's still doing quite well in this position. But queen c7 was just a mistake. Allows me to grab another pawn. And now he plays this, and I block. And his queen is no longer threatening d4, so actually this one is defended. And the idea of blocking with the bishop, I'm blocking his rook from attacking the h-pawn. And I'm also threatening to take here with check. So he defends. So now he decides to sack the knight, that's right. But at this point it's no longer any good. And I just have an advantage here, because this king g1 move is an adequate defense. I mean, he sacked the knight for 2 pawns, although he's a pawn down over here. But he does have 2 strong pawns in the middle. He might have some compensation, but king g1 turns out to be an adequate defense. And so he's doing okay here. And in fact, knight d4 is a mistake, and I should just take that knight. And the move I play in response, though, is rook e1. I figured he had to deal with this threat to the queen. But there is yet another neat tactic here. And this one is even deeper than the last one. So put on your thinking caps, pause the video, and see if you can puzzle this one out. So with this tactic, black is just losing if he doesn't do something. And this tactic allows black to more or less equalize and get back in the game. Maybe even be slightly better, but it's not a winning tactic. It's just a matter of trying to survive, basically. So what is this tactic? I'm going to give it away, so pause the video if you haven't, and if you want to think about it some more. The tactic is rook takes bishop. And you might think, well, what's up with this? Well, the bishop was guarding this f3 square where the knight could come. So for example, if I played rook takes rook, he can play knight here, check, and then grab the queen. Now my plan was to take the queen, and that is the best move for white, actually, or one of them. He still can play this check because I can't defend it. And then the king, his best move is over here to h1, and then knight takes. No, not knight takes. I'm sorry. This is why this tactic is hard to see. If he just takes the knight, if the knight takes the queen, rook takes knight, and I've got an extra piece. I may lose a pawn or 2 over here, but basically I'm still winning. No, the trick is rook takes here, check. And now my king can't move, right? The knight is guarding these squares, so this move here is the only move. Now knight takes queen. You say, well, what's up with that? He's just giving up his rook here. Well, not really, because now knight f3 now forks these 2 rooks. And not only does it fork those 2 rooks, but oddly enough, I mean, normally when you have a knight forking 2 rooks, there's all these different ways the rooks can defend each other, right? You could move this rook to this square and they defend each other, or this rook to this square, or this rook to this square, or this rook to that square. It's like 4 different ways they could defend each other. But they don't work because the rook over here, this square is protected by a pawn, and rook up here doesn't work because this pawn is in the way and the rooks aren't defending each other. So this loses an entire rook. Best for white is rook takes pawn, knight takes, and then pawn here. And what's the situation? Both sides have 1 rook and 1 knight, and black even has an extra pawn and can try to play for a win by pushing this pawn. But black's king is in an awkward position, so this is only a slight advantage for black and should be drawn with best play. But that just shows that even here, after rook e1, so after knight d4, I was just winning if I just take it. After rook e1, now there's a chance for black to get back in the game. But he just retreated the queen, and now it really is winning, and I don't lose the advantage the rest of the way. So these moves are all okay. I just have to be careful of those 2 pawns. I don't get too far. But this is a nice trick here. I'm threatening mate in 3, so hopefully you guys can see that. And he didn't have any better. I think that I looked at it with a computer, and the mate in 3 was unavoidable here. So he didn't have anything better than pushing the pawn, but it's too late. So check, 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 and that's checkmate, because the pawn there is blocking the escape of the king. So game over. I thought it was pretty interesting. A lot of cute tactics, and got a stay alert all the way through. Some of those definitely too deep. That last tactic I showed you, I think, was too deep for mortals to see, even in a slow game. Although possibly grandmasters look ahead that far. That's probably, or masters and grandmasters probably could see that far ahead. A little bit tricky for mortals. But that first tactic I showed you with the exchange, the knight takes e5 tactic, that's the kind of thing you can spot in your own games and take advantage of them because they're easy to overlook. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.